last month. We saw these last month, and you guys had a chance to review them. So we just need to update, we need to approve these, and we'll need a motion to do that. I do think that there's one policy that wasn't there last month, is that right? Two.
There's 2 regulations that we did have to add onto there.
Okay.
The first one, though, is what we talked about during budget season, with making sure that allowing teachers to start carrying over their personal days so they can bank up to 5. So if there's a significant event or a need for a vacation in the off-season to come up, they'll be able to prepare for that and save days. And then the other one, Ms. Sill needed to add to get into line the regulation with the school nutrition program with the USDA requirements. So those are the 2 that were added. And those actually were regulations, they're not even policies.
And what changed with the USDA? Do you know?
I think most of it was just trying to make sure that students who were free and reduced lunches were not identified in any way at all while they come through, the lunch line. You don't give them a different badge or a different meal or a different something. It's, to try to maintain that privacy. And then there were, like the school board will not file a lawsuit against a student or the student's parents because they could not pay for a meal. And they would not be made to work for their meal. That went along with, you're not going to do a hand stamp or a sticker or a wristband that would identify them. So that was the biggest change.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. All right. Well, we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion that we approve the listed policy updates.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
I will abstain, as I only partially caught up, thanks to Ms. Patterson.
Okay. All those policies are approved. And the next thing on the agenda is the Perkins Plan.
If you have any questions, we can answer them. A lot of the funding for this plan is going toward our sports medicine course that's going to be added to buy some materials. I think the countertops and things for the nutrition and wellness classroom, some interactive whiteboards, some computer equipment, and some teacher professional development.
Anybody have any questions about the Perkins Grant?
What's the amount of that grant?
Ms. Wenham?
I didn't get a question.
Total amount of the grant.
What's the amount?
So the draft, the first draft, draft this grant is due April 28th, we submit it. They don't release our allocated amount until they look at our numbers and stuff from this year, so we get July. Sometimes it's like $3,000 more, most of the time it's a little more. So you can addend this at any time during the school year. So once, say it's more, this one is adding up to, I think, I did it the exact same as what we were allocated last year to be saved, like 33.5, I think. But say they released and we're like 36.7, then we would go back. You can addendum every month, every 2 weeks as you need it. Say we decide, hey, somebody came in and donated tons of countertops. We don't need that anymore. We can take that 10,000 or whatever is allocated and invest it somewhere else, as long as it aligns with our annual year performance and where we show that we need a need. So they're very very flexible with that. So we sort of wait and see. It's just weird. They make you turn it in, they screen it, and then they'll release the numbers that were allocated. You guys have anything else on there?
Okay, so if we don't have any questions, I will Motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the Perkins Plan for Career and Technical Education for Madison County.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
I will abstain until I am further aware of what's in the Perkins Plan.
All right. Liz, did you get that? We're good? Okay. And we need approval for the special education plan for the 2022-2023 school year. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so I need a motion and a second to approve the special education plan as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual official education plan this year.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes?
I will again abstain.
Aye.
All right. And the next thing that we have to approve is the superintendent's designee. And in case the superintendent is unavailable, we approve a designee, and she is recommending Dr. Kathy Jones, the assistant superintendent, to be named the designee and to sign anything that need to be signed and approve anything in her absence. So I need a motion for that.
I make a motion to approve Kathy Jones being a designee for Mrs. Graham.
We have a motion and a second, and we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And the motion carries. Okay, two more business approvals. The next one is to ask the county for a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $10,838.
This isn't really extra money, is it?
Yes, they reallocate money that other divisions has not spent, and they give it to us, and we're able to take it. So they will buy some extra security equipment, like some cameras and things. And then we do have a local match for this, but we can take it out of our operating budget. So.
Any other questions? Okay, so I will entertain a motion and a second to approve this supplemental appropriation.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. And motion carries. And the last item for business approval is naming the wrestling room. You want to share your thoughts and information with us?
Sure. Okay. So a little update to that. We have obtained the 4 letters from people of the community. One was Miss Edwards, also known as Miss Perlis, of course to me because, you know, I was before her marriage, but Mr. Stuart Dean, Deputy Michael Foster, and then Mr. Phil Warren. Those were the 4 letters. And then, of course, we will set a ceremony at an appropriate date. Okay.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And to get Mr. Myers up to speed, it was presented to us that we name the wrestling room in honor of Michael Sacra. And so there's a policy that guides that, and she's done all the legwork to get that in play, and we just need to vote on it. So I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion that we approve renaming the wrestling room for
Gladly second that.
Yes, we are honored to be able to do this. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. and your motion passes. Let us know when it is. I want to be there. Thanks for all your hard work on that.
Will that be this year or this next school year, you think?
Okay, so there's a little explanation on that. Anyways, the wrestling room right now is a batting cage for baseball. So I don't think it's right to name the wrestling room after him when it's not a wrestling room at the moment. So it will be sometime during next season, maybe after the team is formed and we can highlight them as well, something like that. Yeah, but definitely next wrestling season when the room is back to normal.
And you're going to come back for that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I will be here.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it. Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
All right, well, while we're here, we have school board member, student representative, and superintendent board reports. So you want to give us your report?
Sure. First of all, prom was this Saturday. Big hit. We have a great prom planning committee, which Miss Emily Klein and Miss Erica Moritz, they are the two co-sponsors for the prom committee. And then it is followed up by juniors, usually junior class officers. And it was a big hit. Everyone was there. It was so fun. I stayed all night. Yeah, it was great. So prom is over, but you know, it was a great last run. And then let's see, what else? I guess that might be it. I'm trying to think. Oh, graduation is coming up. The 21st of May at 10 a.m. I will walk across that stage. You know, I'll be like the last one, but whatever. That's fine. It's whatever. Oh, there's one thing that I am going to be working on this summer, and it is a welcome committee for new students coming into MCHS so far. I guess I could work on a little bit throughout the other schools, but most importantly, high school, because that's such a hard time for a lot of people. But I have wanted to do a welcome committee for a long time, and it's just never kind of gotten started. So I will be working on that this summer, and yeah, hopefully we can get that up and running. So then those new kids can, you know, have someone. So yeah, that's kind of it. Okay.
Thank you for sharing. I'm glad prom was a hit. I saw all the lovely pictures on social media.
It was so great. I loved it.
Good. Mr. Sheads, do you have anything?
No committee reports. We haven't had any meetings since the last school board meeting, but I appreciate Mrs. Davis being here because she has echoed what a handful of parents have mentioned to me with concerns about some of the curriculum that's being looked at. And one of the points that Mr. Wingate made was having parents on that committee, which makes sense because the parents right now are the ones that are pointing out the stuff that personally I agree with them and don't like. It's a questionable curriculum. Maybe sometimes not necessarily the actual curriculum itself, but the way it's being taught, the way it's being construed. I appreciate it very much that Mrs. Davis and as well as some other citizens have brought information back to us saying, hey, this is something that I noticed when I was reading through there. It takes a lot of time to do that, and I really appreciate y'all working on that. So we see a lot of information in the news of different states doing different things. I see DeSantis making some real waves down in Florida, and in a good way in my mind. The sexual education class, we're throwing so much stuff at kids that they don't need to know. They need to learn the basics, and there's a lot of extra stuff we don't need to go. I think about the fact that this doesn't get any more basic than this. We're human beings. We're supposed to be pretty sharp animals on the planet. When I grew up on a farm, nobody told cows how to procreate. but for some reason we have to tell the smartest animals on the earth, humans, how that has to happen. And in school, I don't think it needs to happen. I think we need to back away from that, for one. There was some information that was brought to me about the new curriculum stuff, and it had some teacher guides and instruction of how the teacher is supposed to act in class, how they're supposed to provide the information. And one of the recommendations was to stay away from using gender pronouns, so as don't use him or her or he or she. Well, there's only two, and that's another one of those curriculums. We need to stay away from that. There's only two genders. It's either a boy or a girl, young man or young lady. And again, parents are pointing this stuff out to me, and I really appreciate that. We've got to get some. We have some now. I think we need to drill it in even more. We have clear expectations of how students are supposed to act in school, and clear consequences. And I think we need to double down on consequences. I've been contacted by many parents with bullying situations, and when I went to school, when you got bullied, you either stood up for yourself or you got bullied. And it's not like that nowadays. People are sensitive. You can't tell a child just to take up for themselves. Well, the thing that I have a problem with is when that situation of bullying is brought up to the principal or the teacher, the principal, or even the superintendent. It's a private matter at that moment, and if there's any disciplinary action for that child, it's secret. You can't talk to the other child that was bullied to let them know that, hey, this is what happened, this is the course we took. Well, light exposes darkness, and bullying, I don't want to say that it's evil, but it's bad and it's not good. And honestly, I think we need to get away from hiding this stuff that happens and bring it out in the open. It's a lot easier to deter wrongdoing when people know somebody else is going to find out about it. So I don't know how to make that happen. I just know that we need to shed light on these things. A lot of I would say, I'm not even going to give a percentage. There's just issues that happen in school with children that they don't start in school. School's not the problem. A lot of problems start in the home. And for instance, the Black Lives Matter movement, literally their mission statement was to break down the nuclear family. And I have a real issue with that. These problems that children have in school, they manifest in home, that whether the parents, if it's a broken family and mom or dad's working multiple jobs, they don't get to spend the time with the child like they should. The child has homework, the parent can't help because they don't have time to help. And these problems come to school, and then the issues just keep coming up. And we should be encouraging families and encourage them to stick it out and spend time with their children. I can go on about that later, but the responsibility of the child to learn from the outside of the school, the parents look at it as it's the teacher's responsibility. But when you think about it, it comes down to it is the parent's responsibility. If your child is failing in school or maybe not getting the grades that you want them to get, it's not necessarily the teacher's fault, it's not the school's fault. It's the parent's responsibility to step up and say, what do I need to do to better my child's education? I need to step up. If I need to spend more time with my child. There's so much social technology right now with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I don't even know, it's so much out there. And these children spend time on these tablets and these iPhones all day long, and there's very little interaction. It's really funny when you are talking to someone on your phone by text when they're in the next room. Sometimes they're on the couch, and the child is not having a conversation with the parent. We really need to work to get away from that. It is up to the parent. The parent is solely responsible to do the best they can do for their family, for their child. And when we send them to school, we expect the best from the teachers, but the teachers have limited capability because they're not the parent. They cannot treat that child as their child. A teacher cannot treat my child as my child. My child's going to get a whooping when they mess up. The teacher can't do that. When I was in school, which was, well, I guess 25, 30 years ago. When I was in school, my teachers and my parents worked hand in hand to make my life miserable unless I did what I was supposed to do. I was afraid to not do what I needed to do in school because my parents were on the same team as the teachers. And that's not the way it is nowadays, and it needs to get back to that. The teachers and the parents must be on the same team to help these children excel. And when you start looking at all of this from the 50,000-foot level, it's just a great big ball of a bunch of stuff that's mashed together, and it hasn't been mashed together for years. It's like it's crumbling and it's falling apart. Parents are mad at the teachers because the child's failing. Teachers are mad at the parents because the kid comes to school and they don't have the hair is not brushed, they don't have their books in their book bag, and it's just this snowball effect, and it's going downhill and it's getting bigger and bigger. And I'm not saying we're doing a bad job. I'm saying there's a lot more that we can do if we can get everyone sort of on the same page and working together. And the divisiveness of worrying about things like the SEL or the CRT it really does. It comes down to just the basics. Ms. Davis mentioned it. It comes down to the basics. These kids need the basics. And then as they start to excel, then you add the other stuff in. There's a lot of stuff that we're giving them that they don't need. I guess that's the end of my soapbox, but thank you for letting me say something.
Thank you. When I was decided to run for the school board, it was really, I think the number one thing I really wanted to do was promote that sort of partnership that Mr. Sheads is talking about and help in that way. And so I was really happy. We added one new priority this year, right? Number 7 priority. I was really happy to promote partnership between students, staff, families, and the community through communication, respect, trust, and transparency. And so I think that kind of gets what she's talking about, and so I'm excited about thinking about how we do that, how we incorporate those things. And so I did want to, I think everybody knows, I want to suggest 3 policies to start working on, and either to, whether it be May or June, to vote on, but just so everybody's kind of understanding those 3 policies and really welcome public input and board input and everybody's input in trying to get these policies going. There's 3 of them that I wanted to think about. I think if there's not any concern about it, we'll start kind of working on maybe the next month or so. But I wanted people to know so that if you had input and thoughts, I'd really welcome that to make them the best policies we could. These are all revisions because we already have policies. There's one on the public information program. I just want to make it. I want to make it so that it's the best it can be for promoting transparency. Teachers know what objectives are, what the SALs are, and what syllabuses are, and what teachers are being trained on, things like that. I want to post that in an easily accessible spot. We want to work on our website and things like that to make sure everybody knows what's going on. So there's not any reason to distrust anything. Everybody knows what's being taught. So I want to make sure that's in policy. That's number 1. Number 2, I want to make sure that we talk about this. I want to make sure parents and community members are on the curriculum adoption committees. I know they are. They give their input now, but our lives are so busy. It's like catching a train sometimes. So I want parents to be on there from the very beginning, from the ground floor. I think it's kind of a parental rights kind of thing, and so I'd love to see that and try to incorporate that into our policies, make sure they're equal partners in those curriculum review committees, because after all, they're their children who are learning the curriculum. And last, there's a policy about teaching about controversial issues. I just want to be really thoughtful about revising that to make sure that there's that transparency and trust, that we're teaching in an age-appropriate manner, that we're not teaching things we shouldn't teach, that we do teach stuff that's not biased one way or the other. So I want to look at that and make sure that we're doing that in a good way. So, and I talked to Karen about making sure that people are okay with moving forward on generally that idea, and if they are, then starting to work on that and be ready to look at an actual policy next month. Sound doable? And the second thing I just wanted to say real quick was, echo Mr. Sheads, thanking people for looking at the curriculum. Ms. Jones, what's the latest on the timeline for the language art curriculum process?
So this week, we're having a meeting in the room as a division. We're going to go to the leadership drilling and our leadership team to look at what choices each drilling has made in their top, which of course those choices in their decision making includes all the comments that are from yourself and the public. And so then next month, we're going to what those decisions were for your consideration.
Okay, so there'll be a recommendation next month for approval for the curriculum. Okay. So is a public comment still helpful at this point, or?
Yeah, well, until next month, like I said, Friday, schools are tasked with making a decision.
Thank you for everybody for, I've been trying to review those things, and it's a time-consuming process, not always clear what I'm doing, but
And I think, you saw it Monica tonight, how intricate
Yes.
teaching was being
Right,
clear.
right.
And I think that's an important thing.
yeah, it's great that she's on the committee, it's always
Yeah,
awesome, I think,
absolutely.
that's really good. My goal, as I look at it, my goals are that, we promote kind of positive values of American citizenship, Madison values, school values, avoid controversial, bias, instructional materials, be age appropriate, and great works of literature. I was really impressed. Some of them, it's awesome to see time-tested literature, I think, is what I like. And that sometimes I think we get into kind of fads and educational fads, and I like it when I see the Odyssey and the Iliad and things like that that should be on there, I think, versus the 2021 hot topic or something. That's my input. Anyway, thank you.
All right, I don't have any